It was a cold afternoon in downtown Chicago, the kind of day where the wind whistled through the streets, cutting through even the thickest coats. The city was alive with its usual chaos, cars honking, pedestrians rushing to their destinations, and vendors calling out their last deals of the day. Among the crowd was Marcus Carter, a tall, broad-shouldered black man in his early 30s, making his way home from work. He had just finished his shift as a mechanic at a local auto shop, grease still smudged on his hands, his jacket stained with the marks of a hard day's labor. As he passed a busy intersection, his eyes caught sight of a woman, Emily Watson, a well-dressed white woman in her late 20s, struggling to get out of her car. The front of her expensive silver sedan was crumpled, steam hissing from the radiator. She had just been in a minor accident, hitting a pothole that sent her car skidding into a street pole. She was visibly shaken, her hands trembling as she fumbled with her phone. Pedestrians walked past without stopping, too busy or unwilling to get involved. Some turned their heads, others glanced in her direction before hurrying along. Marcus hesitated for a moment. He had seen how situations like this could sometimes turn against men like him. But his instincts, his upbringing, and his decency overpowered any doubt. "Ma'am, you okay?" Marcus asked, his voice steady but gentle. Emily looked up, startled. For a brief moment, her eyes flickered with something: hesitation, fear, discomfort, before she forced a small, polite smile. I think my car is broken. It won't start." Marcus nodded, stepping closer. "Mind if I take a look? I work with cars for a living." Emily hesitated again, her grip tightening on her phone as though considering whether she should trust him. But then she exhaled and nodded. "Yeah, okay. That would be great." Marcus bent down, examining the front of the vehicle. The radiator was busted, the front bumper slightly dented. It wasn't a terrible accident, but the car wouldn't be drivable without repairs. He popped the hood, checking for any deeper damage. As he worked, he could feel Emily's eyes on him, watching him carefully. He'd seen that look before, the quiet suspicion, the unspoken doubt. "You were lucky," he said, straightening up. "Could have been worse. You're going to need a tow, though." Emily sighed, brushing a loose strand of blonde hair behind her ear. "Great. Just great." She looked down at her phone, sighing in frustration. "My battery's dead." Marcus glanced at her, then at the people passing by. No one had stopped to help before. They wouldn't stop now. He pulled his phone from his pocket. "I can call one for you, if you want." Emily hesitated again, but she didn't really have a choice. "Yeah, okay. Thanks." Marcus dialed a local tow service, arranging for them to come as soon as possible. While they waited, he stood beside the car, arms crossed. "So, what happened?" "You hit the pothole." Emily sighed. "Yeah, I wasn't even going that fast. Just my luck." Marcus chuckled. "Chicago roads will do that to you." She gave a small smile. For a moment, the tension between them eased. The city noises faded into the background, and it was just two strangers waiting for help. Then, the tow truck arrived. The driver, a stocky man with a graying beard, hopped out and immediately assessed the damage. Marcus stepped back, letting him work. "She's going to need a tow to a shop," the driver said after a few minutes. "You got a place in mind?" Emily turned to Marcus. "Do you know any good places?" Marcus nodded. "Yeah, I can recommend a shop." "She'll take it to Ridge Auto," the tow driver interrupted. "That's where most folks around here go." Marcus frowned slightly, but said nothing. Emily nodded. "That's fine." As the tow driver prepared the car, Emily reached into her purse and pulled out a small wad of cash. She turned to Marcus, pressing a few bills into his palm. "For your help," she said, her voice quick, almost dismissive. Marcus looked down at the money, then back up at her. He wasn't expecting a reward. He had just done what any decent person should do. But the way she handed it to him, the way she avoided his gaze, made something feel off. "Ma'am, I didn't help you for money," he said evenly, extending the cash back toward her. Emily blinked, as if surprised. "Oh, well, I just thought." Marcus shook his head. "It's fine. Just take care." He turned to leave, tucking his hands into his jacket. Emily watched him go, a flicker of uncertainty on her face. For a moment, it seemed like she might say something, but she didn't. Marcus disappeared into the crowd. She exhaled, looking down at the money in her hand, then back at the tow driver, who was watching her with a knowing smirk. "You know, you're lucky he wasn't one of those other kinds," the tow driver muttered. You can never be too careful, you know? Emily stiffened. She glanced back toward the direction Marcus had walked. Then she nodded. Yeah, she murmured. I know. That night, Marcus sat on his couch, flipping through channels mindlessly. His hands still smelled like motor oil despite washing them twice. The encounter with Emily lingered in his mind, but not because of the accident itself. It was the way she had looked at him, the hesitation, the subtle discomfort. He had seen that look more times than he cared to count. He sighed and shook his head. Not worth thinking about, he told himself. The next morning, Marcus walked into Johnson's Auto Repair, the shop where he had worked for the last 7 years. It wasn't fancy, just a modest garage with a handful of mechanics working on cars, the air thick with the smell of gasoline and metal. He was halfway through tuning up a customer's engine when his coworker, Luis, nudged him. Yo, Carter, Luis said, chewing on a toothpick. You hear about the woman with the busted sedan last night? Marcus wiped his hands on a rag, frowning. What about her? Luis snorted. Apparently, she's telling people you tried to scam her. Marcus froze. What? Yeah, man. Luis leaned against the workbench. She told the folks at Ridge Auto that some sketchy mechanic approached her after the accident, pretended to help, then tried to pressure her into bringing the car to his shop for repairs. She said she felt threatened, but played along, so she wouldn't be in danger. Marcus clenched his jaw. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with anger. That's a damn lie, he said, his voice low. Luis shrugged. Hey, I know that. But she's been running her mouth, man. Customers at Ridge Auto heard the story, and now it's spreading. Marcus wiped his face with his hands. He had done nothing wrong, nothing except offer to help. He didn't think Emily would be grateful, but he sure as hell didn't expect this. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Emily sat at a small cafe, her phone buzzing with incoming texts. Her friend, Rachel, sat across from her, sipping a latte. I still can't believe you got into an accident, Rachel said. That must have been terrifying. Emily exhaled, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. It was awful, and this guy just appeared out of nowhere. Rachel frowned. What do you mean? Emily hesitated. She hadn't meant to exaggerate the story when she told the mechanic at Ridge Auto. She had been rattled, frustrated, and honestly, embarrassed that she needed help in the first place. But as she recounted it, the story changed. Maybe she had subconsciously made it sound worse than it was. She had told them that a man approached her after the accident and suggested taking her car to his shop, making it sound like he had an agenda. She hadn't outright lied, not exactly. She just left out the part where he had actually helped. And now? Well, now the story had a life of its own. Rachel leaned forward. Wait, are you saying you thought he was trying to scam you? Emily hesitated. I don't know. It felt off, you know? He was really pushy about helping. Rachel raised an eyebrow. Pushy? Or just helping? Emily shifted uncomfortably. I don't know, she muttered. I just didn't feel safe. Rachel stared at her. Emily, was it because he was black? Emily's stomach twisted. What? No. I mean, that wasn't. She stopped. Rachel leaned back, crossing her arms. Because it kinda sounds like you're making him out to be some predator when really, he was just a guy who helped you out. Emily's fingers tightened around her coffee cup. I didn't mean to. Rachel sighed. Look, I'm just saying, if this story keeps spreading, it could really screw things up for him. And if you're wrong about him. Emily's phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Unknown, you're gonna regret what you said about Marcus Carter. Fix this before it's too late. Her breath caught. Oh my God, she whispered. Rachel leaned over. What? Emily turned her phone around, showing her the text. Rachel read it and exhaled. Looks like people are starting to put the pieces together. Emily swallowed. This was getting out of control. Back at Johnson's Auto Repair, Marcus sat in the break room, scrolling through his phone. His name was popping up in local Facebook groups. Be careful in downtown Chicago. A woman reported a man pretending to help her after an accident, then trying to pressure her into a shady repair shop. Stay safe, ladies. Marcus's blood ran cold. The comments were even worse. Typical. They always prey on vulnerable women. This is why I carry pepper spray. Why wasn't he arrested? Marcus clenched his fists. He had done nothing wrong. A notification popped up. Luis, bro, you need to see this. It was a screenshot of a tweet. Emily Watson at Emily_Watson89. I had a terrifying experience last night after my accident. A stranger tried to take advantage of my situation. I was lucky to get away unharmed. Women, please be careful. Marcus's vision blurred with rage. She hadn't just let the lie spread, she was feeding it. This wasn't just some rumor anymore. It was an accusation, and it could ruin his life. Marcus sat in silence, gripping his phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. He had seen false accusations ruin lives before. People fired, shunned, even arrested for things they never did. But this was personal. His stomach churned as he clicked on Emily's tweet again. Thousands of people had already liked and shared it. The replies were filled with outrage, horror, and threats. This is exactly why we don't trust random men offering help. He needs to be exposed. What's his name? Ladies, stay vigilant. You never know who's a predator. Marcus felt sick. A predator. He had spent years building his reputation, working hard, minding his own business. And now, because of one woman's reckless words, people thought he was a threat. He needed to fix this. Now. Meanwhile, Emily sat frozen at her kitchen table, rereading the anonymous text message. Her heart pounded. Who had sent it? And how did they know what she had said? She opened Twitter again. The replies to her post had changed. The original flood of support was still there, but now, new comments were trickling in. Are you sure this happened the way you're saying? There's another side to this story. Why did you call him sketchy? What exactly did he do wrong? Her stomach dropped. Oh no. Then she saw a quote tweet from an account with the handle @JusticeForMarcus. Before you ruin a man's life, maybe get your facts straight. Here's the actual story. Emily clicked the link. It led to a Facebook post. And there, in the comments, were witnesses. I saw the accident. That guy actually helped her out. She's lying. He wasn't aggressive at all. She needs to take this down before it's too late. Emily's breath hitched. This was spinning out of control. Back at Johnson's Auto Repair, Marcus was pacing. Luis watched him from the corner of the shop. Bro, you gotta get ahead of this. Marcus ran a hand down his face. How? What am I supposed to do? Tweet out, hey guys, I'm not a criminal, and hope they believe me. Luis shook his head. No, man. You need proof. Receipts. Something that makes it undeniable. Marcus exhaled sharply. His mind raced. Proof. Then it hit him. The gas station. He had stopped at a gas station minutes before running into Emily. A gas station with security cameras. If he could get the footage, he could prove he wasn't lurking around, waiting to prey on women. Without another word, he grabbed his jacket and stormed out. At the gas station, Marcus approached the cashier, an older man named Darnell. Darnell, I need your help, Marcus said, leaning on the counter. You got security cameras here, right? Darnell raised an eyebrow. Yeah. What? Marcus hesitated. You heard about the accident last night? Near Lakeshore Drive. Darnell nodded slowly. Yeah, something about a mechanic harassing a woman? Marcus's jaw tightened. So the story had reached here too. I was that mechanic, Marcus said. Darnell's eyes widened. Damn. For real. Marcus nodded. And it's a lie. I need the footage to prove I wasn't doing anything shady. Darnell studied him for a moment. Then, without a word, he turned toward the back office. Marcus held his breath as the older man scrolled through the footage. Minutes passed. Then, there. Darnell pointed at the screen. That's you, right? Marcus exhaled. The footage showed him at the pump, filling his truck. The timestamp was minutes before the accident. It showed him finishing up, getting back into his truck, and driving in the direction of the accident, proving he didn't stalk her or lie in wait. Darnell turned to him. You need a copy of this? Marcus nodded. Yeah, and fast. Emily sat on her couch, phone buzzing relentlessly. Rachel had called twice. Messages from strangers were flooding her inbox. Then, a new tweet appeared on her feed. Marcus Carter @RealMarcusCarter. Since lies are spreading, here's the truth. I stopped to help after an accident. I never pressured anyone. And here's proof. Below the tweet was a video. Emily's stomach twisted as she pressed play. The video showed Marcus at the gas station, filling his truck, minding his own business. Then, the footage cut to a second clip, him pulling up to the accident minutes later, getting out of his truck, and walking toward her. No lurking. No stalking. No predatory behavior. Emily's chest tightened. The replies flooded in. So she just made this up? Y'all tried to ruin this man's life over nothing. Emily, you better fix this. Her hands trembled. This wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore. This was a full-blown disaster. Emily's breath was shallow as she stared at her phone screen. The truth was out. The footage completely destroyed her claim. Marcus hadn't been lurking. He hadn't been aggressive. He had simply stopped to help her, and she had twisted the narrative out of fear and prejudice. And now, people knew. Her notifications were a war zone. Apologize. Now. So you just falsely accused a black man and thought no one would notice? This is how innocent men end up in jail. She swallowed hard. The same people who had rallied behind her were now turning against her, and she deserved it. Her stomach churned. What was she supposed to do now? The moment he posted the footage, everything changed. The angry tweets demanding his cancellation started to disappear, replaced by apologies, some genuine, some hollow. Strangers flooded his inbox. Man, I'm sorry for jumping to conclusions. This whole situation is messed up. Hope you're okay. We see you, bro, stay strong. Even some public figures started commenting, calling out the danger of false accusations. But Marcus didn't care about internet apologies. His reputation had been dragged through the mud. He had lost customers. His shop had been bombarded with negative reviews before people even knew the truth. And Emily? She had the privilege of just deleting a tweet and moving on. Marcus clenched his jaw. Not this time. He had been falsely accused, humiliated, and nearly ruined. And now, she had to face consequences. Emily sat at her desk, staring at a blank tweet. Her fingers trembled as she typed. Emily Davis at M. Davis writes, I need to take responsibility. I misread the situation, and I made a horrible mistake. I falsely accused Marcus Carter, and my words had consequences. I am deeply sorry. She hovered over the post button. Would this be enough? Could an apology even fix this? She took a deep breath and hit send. Almost instantly, the backlash exploded. Too little, too late. You could have ruined his life. Saying sorry isn't enough. This is why false accusations are so dangerous. Her face burned with shame. She had spent years building her platform, writing articles about social issues, gaining respect as a voice for women's rights. Now, she was the villain, and for the first time in her life, she couldn't argue with it. The next morning, Marcus met with his lawyer. You have a strong case for defamation, the lawyer said, scrolling through the tweets. Her words caused real harm, both financially and personally. Marcus exhaled slowly. I don't care about money. I don't want this to happen to someone else. His lawyer nodded. Then a lawsuit would set a precedent. People need to understand that words have power. False accusations destroy lives. Marcus leaned back in his chair. He had never wanted to be this guy, the one in the middle of a legal battle, making headlines. But if he let this slide, what would stop it from happening to another innocent man? Let's do it, he said finally. I'm suing. Emily's worst fears were confirmed when she got the email. Marcus Carter was taking legal action. Her hands shook as she read the lawsuit. Defamation. False accusations. Damages. Her mind raced. How had it come to this? But deep down, she knew the answer. She had done this. And now, she had to face the consequences. The news spread like wildfire. Marcus Carter files lawsuit over false accusation. Mechanic sues after being falsely labeled as a predator. The dangers of social media trials, when innocent men become targets. Television hosts debated it. Legal analysts weighed in. And public opinion? Overwhelmingly on Marcus's side. Emily became the face of reckless false accusations. She lost her writing job. She lost her book deal. She lost everything she had worked for. And as she sat in her apartment, scrolling through article after article dragging her name through the mud, she realized this was exactly what she had done to Marcus. Marcus, meanwhile, felt something he hadn't felt in days, relief. The damage to his reputation wouldn't disappear overnight. But he had fought back. He had refused to be another statistic, another black man taken down by a careless accusation. And as he locked up his shop for the night, he finally let himself breathe. Justice had been served. Emily sat in her dimly lit apartment, staring at the blank document on her laptop. The cursor blinked impatiently, as if mocking her. For years, she had made a career out of words. But now, words had destroyed her. Her inbox was a graveyard of lost opportunities. We regret to inform you. After careful consideration, we are no longer moving forward. Given the recent controversy, we must distance ourselves. Her publisher had pulled her book deal. The magazine she wrote for had let her go. Even the nonprofit organizations she supported had publicly denounced her. She had become a cautionary tale. Emily Davis, the woman who cried wolf. And the worst part? She had done it to herself. Meanwhile, Marcus was rebuilding. The lawsuit was still ongoing, but his name was finally cleared. Local news stations had picked up his story, painting him as a man who fought back against injustice. The false accusations had nearly destroyed his business, but the support he received afterward was overwhelming. Customers, both old and new, showed up to his shop just to shake his hand, to apologize, to tell him they stood with him. "Man, I was one of the people who believed her at first," one customer admitted, handing over his keys. "But when the truth came out, I felt sick." "I'm sorry," Marcus nodded, shaking his hand. "Just be careful next time. Words have power." That was the lesson, wasn't it? Words had nearly cost him everything. But now, they were helping him rebuild. Emily tried to disappear, but the internet never forgets. Even months later, any search of her name led to headlines, articles, YouTube videos dissecting what she had done. At first, she had fought back. She had tried to argue that she hadn't meant harm, that she genuinely felt afraid that night. But no one was listening anymore. Her fear had been irrational. Her reaction had been dangerous. And Marcus had paid the price. So she stopped trying to defend herself. She stopped logging onto Twitter. She stopped hoping people would forget. Instead, she tried to make things right. She reached out to Marcus's lawyer, offering a formal, public apology. She offered a financial settlement. She even volunteered to work with organizations that addressed the dangers of false accusations. But nothing she did could undo the damage. Nothing could take back what she had done. Marcus, however, was moving forward. He still had moments of anger, of frustration. Why had this happened to him? But he refused to let it define him. Instead of just winning a lawsuit, he decided to do something bigger. He started speaking out. Interviews, podcasts, articles. He shared his story, not for revenge, but as a warning. He spoke about the dangers of social media trials, about the racial biases that made people quick to believe a black man was dangerous. He wanted real change. And surprisingly, even Emily's case helped. Her downfall became a wake-up call. People started thinking twice before spreading accusations online. The conversation around false accusations and their consequences became louder, more urgent. And though Marcus still carried the scars of what had happened, he knew one thing for sure. He had survived. In the end, 2 lives were changed forever. Emily lost her career, her reputation, her credibility, all because she spoke without thinking. Marcus lost his peace, his trust in the world, but he gained something greater. He became a voice for the falsely accused. And as he walked into his shop one morning, greeted by the sound of buzzing tools and the smell of motor oil, he finally felt free. Because he had taken back his story. And no one could take that away from him.